This lesson's on photosynthesis, and here are the objectives. Photosynthesis performed by plants transforms light energy into chemical potential energy, and then it stores that chemical potential energy in carbon compounds, specifically in carbohydrates. By doing this, by storing light energy in carbon compounds, photosynthesis provides energy for entire food chains. Virtually all the energy that living things use originates in solar energy, in light energy, that's captured by photosynthesis. So photosynthesis feeds the living world. Now previously, we've looked at cellular respiration, and we've seen this overview equation. Glucose, which is relatively high in energy, is oxidized in a process that uses molecular oxygen and that produces carbon dioxide and water as waste. Carbon dioxide is lower energy than glucose, and the energy that's released, therefore, is stored in ATP. So cellular respiration was a process for unlocking the energy that's stored in carbohydrates. Photosynthesis is the process that stores that energy in the carbohydrates in the first place. And here's the overview equation for photosynthesis. Carbon dioxide, which is a source of carbon and is relatively low energy, is used to make glucose, which is relatively high energy, or as we'll see, a precursor to glucose anyway. So carbon dioxide is the source of carbon, but to put it together to make relatively high energy glucose requires a source of energy, and that energy comes from light. As well, water is an input, and water is split, and that releases oxygen here as a waste. And that's the oxygen that we breathe. Now, just like we saw with cellular respiration, this equation never happens as one reaction. Rather, there's many enzyme catalyzed steps. It's the same thing with photosynthesis. This is just an overall summary. This reaction never happens as one step. We'll take a look in future lessons in more detail at the different processes that make up photosynthesis. So while the overall summary equations of cellular respiration and photosynthesis are opposites, they are not reverse processes. They require different enzymes and have different steps. And important to remember or recognize that plants actually do both. They need to do cellular respiration in order to unlock the energy that they have taken from light and stored in carbohydrates by the process of photosynthesis in order to power their own cellular activities. Now, photosynthesis takes place in special organelles in plants and algae called chloroplasts. So chloroplasts are organelles that are the site of photosynthesis. And these are both eukaryotes, plants, and algae, but there are prokaryotes that can perform photosynthesis as well. Those are called cyanobacteria, and they perform photosynthesis in their entire cell. They don't have subcellular chloroplast organelles. Now, there are special pigments that are used to capture light energy. Pigments are things that absorb light, and an example that you will have heard of that's an important pigment in photosynthesis is chlorophyll. So chlorophyll is a pigment that's used to capture light energy. As well, up here, we see that water is an input and molecular oxygen is an output. And the oxygen here actually comes from water. So photosynthesis involves a process that splits water to provide electrons for an electron transport chain. There's an electron transport chain in photosynthesis, as we'll see, just like there is in cellular respiration. And to provide electrons for that electron transport chain, photosynthesis splits water. That's a process called photolysis, lysis for splitting, photo for light. So photolysis splits water and makes oxygen as a waste product, and this is the oxygen that we breathe. So photosynthesis not only stores light energy in carbohydrates, but it also provides the oxygen that we need to unlock that stored energy through cellular respiration. Now, plants can use the carbohydrates that they synthesize in photosynthesis for energy, and they can do that by, again, taking those carbohydrates through the process of cellular respiration, or they can also use them for structure. Think here of cellulose, which is the major component of plant cell walls. It's made of multiple glucoses attached together. So carbohydrates made in photosynthesis can be used by plants for both energy and structure. And then in turn, an animal that eats that plant can then either use the carbon compounds from the plant for a source of energy by putting them through cellular respiration to unlock that energy, or can use the carbon chains as a basis of their own structure. And so photosynthesis allows plants and other photosynthetic organisms to be the base of food chains, providing both energy and carbon compounds for the entire food chain.